Thank you very much, Joe. Thank you for those kind words. It's nice to have friends who love you enough to lie for you in public. I'd like to begin by thanking all of you for being here this evening, because without your participation, this event couldn't exist. As I look out into the crowd tonight, although I'm blinded by the lights, I see some faces that are vaguely familiar, except that you all look so different this early in the evening. I'm used to seeing you in the wee hours of the morning. Although I suspect some of you look different because I'm sober. Some of you look different because you're sober. I'd like to take this opportunity to extend congratulations to my fellow inductees. I'm proud to be part of such an august group, and there's a lot of history here. I first had the opportunity to share the stage with Jim Gracia at the first Tamburitza testimonial, the precursor to this event, back in 1969. And in 1970, Jim and I performed in the house orchestra for the second Tamburitza extravaganza, or Tamburitza festival, under the direction of Steve Makarevich. I first heard Patsy Yurkovich-Lucas perform at the first extravaganza in 1971 when she was performing with her father in the Zagreb Orchestra. And I take this opportunity to extend my deepest sympathies to Patsy and Mishko and their entire families. The boys from Sinovi have been entertaining all of us for many years, and not only are they excellent musicians, they're consummate performers, and they are absolute gentlemen in every respect. And I congratulate you one and all. I'd like to recognize and thank my many Ivancevich cousins who came in from Texas, from Florida, from Connecticut, and my aunts, Lenora Ivancevich, Virginia Ivancevich, and Kathleen Ivancevich, along with my sister and her husband who are present, and my wife's cousin Vaso and his wife Marissa, who came in from Canada. Of course, I'd also like to thank the committee for choosing to honor me, but I must tell you, I'm compelled to tell you, that there is no honor in this recognition, no honor in this award. The real honor, my friends, has been in having the opportunity to perform and entertain so many thousands of you over the last 40 plus years. Through my music, you have invited me into your lives, into your homes, and into your hearts. And for that, I am eternally grateful. There is no privilege in standing here at this podium by myself. The privilege has been in performing with some of the finest musicians, some of the finest people that God has ever put on this good earth. The joy of this moment, such that it is, comes from sharing this award with those many people, musicians and fans alike, who made it possible for me to be here. Because the truth is, this moment is less about my meager talents than it is about the talents and the abilities of the people I shared the stage with over the years. And since you're a captive audience, and since I have the microphone, and despite the admonition I got from Joe Novosel, it took me 45 years to get here, so I'm going to take the opportunity to mention as many of those wonderfully talented musicians as I can. These are musicians with whom I shared the stage with on regular book jobs. Each of them has gifted me with a little piece of themselves. I've stolen shamelessly from some of them. I've learned something from each of them. And many of them are no longer with us. So some of these names, I think, should be repeated at every extravaganza because they laid the groundwork for everything that we do here. It's easy for us to forget that the old-timers kept this music vibrant and alive for a century, even when in Europe it was considered nothing more than an archaic, quaint form of folk music. Of course, these days, technology has allowed for a free exchange, a free transfer of music and ideas and groups, but that wasn't always the case, and the contribution of these old-timers cannot be overestimated and should never be forgotten. I'd also like to mention and thank my parents who exposed me not only to this music, but all forms of music. And I would mention in particular my mother, who was neither Serbian nor Croatian nor Slovenian, but who was Polish, and who heard Tamburitza music when she was a teenager, when she went to a friend's wedding, and she fell in love with it. And when she and my dad started dating, and for the many years thereafter, Saturday nights were spent at all of the numerous venues in the Chicago area, and there were a number of them, as some of us remember. But before mentioning these great musicians who have been such a part of my life, I'd like to paraphrase that old Tambura standard, Leti Leti. Let my words fly toward the heavens, let my song be heard. Let these names resonate once again, and let us take a moment to celebrate their legacy. And I would first mention and thank my idols, my mentors, my friends, the Popovich brothers and Pete Mistovich, my first musical director, Marty Capucci, his brother Frank, Horace Mamala, Walter Pravica, my first mentor and perhaps my biggest fan, the great violinist Tony Marklin, and Mr. Bugaria Steve Paulich, who I played with in the Dunav Orchestra of South Chicago, Milan Opasic, who shared the stage, or shared not only the stage with me, but also his love of instrument building and repair. Steve Barrich, who I played with in the Zora Orchestra, Jerry Bonina, Steve Sirlanica, Danny Pohala, the renowned Mel Dokic, Sanda Pavlovich, and Bogdan Billy Topolsky of Detroit's beloved Lira Orchestra, my cum Frankie Ivancevich, my old friend Paul Milanovic from the other All Hall of Fame band, Rados from Pittsburgh, the great Jerry Gersevich, of course Joe Kieran, and today's inductee Steve Kieran, Pete Plechash, Animal, my cum, your cum, everybody's cum Richie Krilich, who I played with not only in the Krilich Brothers Orchestra, but with Bracha, along with Hall of Famer Rudy Gracia and Sam Budis. And these are just the Hall of Famers that I played regular book jobs with. If I were to sit here and mention all of the people that I filled in with, sat in with, had jam sessions with, the list would be exhaustive. And of course, there are those musicians who are not Hall of Famers, although many of them should be, and some of them certainly will be. And they have been an important part of my life. My cum Nick Jovanovic and Misho Jocic, who I played with in Jadran. Marko Turbovic, who recruited me in his first band and convinced me to switch from preem to cello. My cum Steve Brajak, who remains a constant source of education, inspiration, and entertainment. My cum Mitch Sekula and the boys from Jedinstvo, Nick Vudrag and Mike Swagel. Bob Lalich, who played with the Popoviches with me for many years, Whitey Gornick. Tamburitza Music's contribution to the jazz world, my friend Knez Yakovitz, and of course the Ovanen brothers. And special mention to my friends Dave and Danny Vernesevich. I didn't forget you guys. And of course my guys from Drina, and although they're the last on the list, they're first in my hearts. My childhood friend Nick Rockich, the Ernie Banks of Tamburitza Music. Nick's been known to say, it's a beautiful day, let's play too, at least as long as there's beer. Mo Brajak, world-class bass player and expert craftsman. Pete Narancic. Pete was the first of my contemporaries to take an interest in me and take me under his wing. Pete will tell you that he did so under penalties of death from his father, but I'd like to choose to believe that Pete really liked me. And of course, my cum, my constant source of inspiration, my muse, my sounding board, my co-conspirator, my wingman, my musical brother, the amazingly talented Joe Perrotin. And guys, I'm going to ask you to stand up so everyone can acknowledge you. And you too, cum Stevie. This award belongs to them as much as it belongs to me. And I'd be remiss if I didn't thank the four ladies and my wife. They've given up a couple of thousands of Saturday nights so that I could do what I do. My wife, Angie, my beautiful daughters, Natasha, Tatiana, and Bianca, thank you. I love you guys. And I'd like to close with two quick stories that I hope will give you some insight into the secret world of what it's like to be a tamburash. In 1990, I was playing with the Popoviches, and about 10:30 on a Friday night, I received a telephone call from Ted Popovich to tell me that the wedding that we had booked for the next day had been canceled, and for the first time in 65 years of playing at that time, someone canceled the wedding. Apparently the bride had called and she and the groom had gotten into a huge fight, and she was refusing to go through with the nuptials the next day. And so I found myself at home on a Saturday night with nothing to do. I was underfoot and in the way, and so my wife made a few suggestions, and 9 months later, our youngest, Bianca, was born. And I'm pleased to say that for the following 11 years, the Popoviches were happy to contribute to her support. A few years later, my eldest had lost a tooth, and I came stumbling home one Saturday night, early Sunday morning, and my wife told me that I had been designated to play the tooth fairy, so I sneaked into her room and realized that the smallest bill I had in my pocket was a 20, and not wishing to disappoint, I slipped the bill under her pillow. And the next morning, she woke up and came out and was excited, not by the denomination of the bill, but rather by the discovery that she had made. And she proudly proclaimed that she realized the tooth fairy had played Tamburitza because the bill had a hole torn in the side. And you see, fame is such a fleeting thing. You go from Tamburitza God, where you're pursued by women and envied by men and looked up to by children, and you come home and you're the tooth fairy. And so that's enough to keep you humble. My dear friends, thank you for your continued support and for your lifetime of memories and music. And remember that when it comes to Tamburitza music, stay thirsty, my friends.